I want it all. I want an amazing work-life balance where I only work when I want to, but I'm also free to unwind, unplug, take a vacation whenever I need to. And yet at the same time, I still feel like my work is actually impactful in helping others. I want financial freedom, where I have a beautiful home and a couple nice cars, not to flex, but because I want to race those cars on the track. I want a bad wife who brings out the best in me, and I want a happy family. I want to have my cake and eat it too. And who says you can't as well? What people often fail to realize is that reality is more subjective than we actually think. Sounds crazy? Hear me out. Person A wakes up with a glass half full, optimistic growth mindset to start his day. When he grabs breakfast from the fridge, he notices the food is warm and his milk has gone bad. Damn, the fridge is busted. That sucks, but oh well, he's renting an apartment, not a condo, so thankfully he can just call up maintenance and they're gonna handle the issue, not really his problem. And as for breakfast, it's all good. He watched that one Med School Insiders video a few weeks back on time-restricted feeding, and he's been wanting to try it out, but just never got around to it. Now, I mean, his breakfast has gone bad, so now's the perfect opportunity. Person B wakes up in the morning with a glass half empty, pessimistic, fixed mindset. And when he goes to the fridge, he's pissed. Goddamn, now he's hungry, can't focus, the entire day is ruined. Now both person A and person B are right. They are both experiencing reality, and you can't fault either one for not being truthful. But with the mentality and mindset of person A, he's going to assume the best in people. He's gonna have a positive outlook, and these effects are going to compound with time. Same thing with person B. He's gonna be more pessimistic, and when opportunities come into his life, he's gonna see them more as roadblocks, as distractions, as nuisances, rather than the opportunities that they could be. Now, both mindsets with time will compound, and as a result, the life trajectories will diverge. Neither one is wrong, but one way of being is far more effective than another way of being. Our realities are, in large part, a function of what we choose to focus on. Now, I've spent a lot of time on Reddit during this quarantine, and one thing I love about Reddit is that popular opinions and beliefs rise to the surface because they have this upvoting system. Now, I came across a thread on Reddit asking, how can you be a successful entrepreneur, something along those lines. And the top comments are not things that I necessarily agree with. One of them was something along the lines of, you need to love money more than anything else, and you need to be willing to compromise on your morals and ethics and do some like gray area stuff to be actually successful. And another top comment was that the best paying lines of work are just not sexy lines of work. So if you want to make good money, you need to be willing to do the boring, tedious, not fun stuff. This sounds harmless, but I would argue this is just another manifestation of a victim mentality. Because now the person can say, hey, I'm not successful because I'm not willing to compromise on my morals and ethics. Those rich, successful people, they were doing some shady shit that I will never do, and I'm better than them for that reason. Or someone could say, oh, the reason I'm not doing well, my line of work is really exciting, and if I chose a more boring line of work, which I'm not willing to do, then I get paid more. So it's not my fault, it's just the industry that I'm working in. I'm gonna challenge these people with these assumptions that maybe you're not getting the results you want because you haven't done anything that is deserving of those results. In response to this, of course, people whine and complain, life isn't fair. No Sherlock, but what are you going to do about it? I've had more than my fair share of shit cards in my life, but guess what? I determine how I play them. And you can win the game with shit cards, just like you can lose the game with really killer cards. As a general rule, people avoid taking responsibility. They also like lazy thinking. Black and white. One thing is good, one thing is bad. But the gray area is where the truth is. It's in that nuance. Simplifications that we have are there to help us understand and compartmentalize, not to be these final truths. So a car is a car and a motorcycle is a motorcycle to help us understand what we're talking about, to help us organize that. But look at a Polaris slingshot, for example. Is that really a car? Not quite. Is that a motorcycle? Not quite. So you see these exceptions everywhere in life. Those that are willing to examine these gray areas are those that find the deeper truths. Cycling is like an analogy to life. Cycling Red Rock here in Las Vegas from end to end, back and forth, is about 25 miles with 2,600 feet of climbing, and it's pretty challenging. Now, there are two types of people. One will say, damn, that was tough. I need a better bike. The other one's gonna say, damn, that was tough. I wonder how much better I can get. Which one do you think helps you grow as a person and develop your confidence? It's for that reason that I still ride the same bike I bought 8 years ago, which was the cheapest bike you could buy from Specialized. Now, the same concept applies to life. You see people that want to be rich or comfortable, or you even see them fighting over their parents' inheritance, which I find appalling. Like, what makes you entitled to that? People focus so much on just the outcome, the final destination of being in some financial position, for example, but they don't concern themselves with the journey. But that's where you're spending most of your time to get there. Those who earn their wealth, on average, have statistically significant higher levels of life satisfaction and happiness compared to those who receive a windfall or inheritance. But you see so many people that just want to have rich parents or win the lottery or have some other wishful thinking. I fucking cherish the fact that I paid for my own college, I paid for my own medical school, and then I paid off those student loans. Yeah, it was stressful and it sucked at moments, and I pinched pennies like none other. I would never get guac with my Chipotle bowl. I needed to save that $2.05. But now I'm so grateful for that because I'm on the other side and it makes it so much sweeter. And guess what? No one can ever take that away from me, and it makes me feel really good. Confidence is so important to any endeavor you take in life, whether that's doing well on a test or taking a professional risk that can possibly pay off big time, or I mean, hell, even your dating life. But the common narrative is that you gotta fake it till you make it. Fuck that noise, earn your confidence. You take small risks at the beginning, and then you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, but then you'll have the confidence to say, okay, I can take slightly larger risks. So now you take these medium risks, and again, you're gonna win some and you're gonna lose some, but then you have the confidence that you can handle it, even the losses, right? And then you take even bigger risks, and then so on and so forth. That's a more natural progression to build your confidence, whereas if you fake it till you make it, then you end up at a position where you ultimately just have imposter syndrome. Now, I quit plastic surgery, and for those of you who aren't in medicine and aren't familiar with it, it's one of the most competitive, lucrative, and safest fields in medicine. For example, no matter what happens with insurance companies and compensation, a plastic surgeon can always open up a cash-based practice and they're gonna be fine. People kill to get into plastic surgery. The year I applied, the match rate was the only specialty that had a match rate in the 60s. I was so ecstatic when I got in, and then I quit. And for that reason, a lot of people thought I was insane, and some people still do. But I had built up the confidence to quit because I had these smaller entrepreneurial wins leading up to that point. Most of us in medicine are very risk averse, and normally I would be too. But in that situation, I felt that the risk of me not being successful in entrepreneurship was low enough for me to tolerate. I pulled the trigger and I was willing to bet on myself, even though a lot of people on the surface thought that it was super risky, foolish, stupid, whatever. But that's because I had built up the confidence with these smaller wins, and to a point where now my risk assessment had shifted. But Kevin, 80 to 90% of small businesses fail. That's why I say statistics apply to populations, not to individuals. By the way, we got two styles. We got another style over here. You can buy them below this video. I don't think that my businesses have an 80 to 90% chance of failing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm in for a rude awakening, and maybe you're like, Kevin, you're an idiot. Just wait and see. I don't know. But I don't believe that. And at the end of the day, I make my decisions based on my beliefs, which are fundamentally built off of my confidence. Now, only 40% of students that apply to a USMD program every year actually get it. Now, if I think back to when I was applying to medical school, do I think that I had only a 40% chance of getting into a medical school? Obviously not, but people still take that same mentality when it comes to their own medical school applications. Now, some students, they'll come to us, they have a 3.9 GPA, 520 on the MCAT, but they didn't get in last cycle, and they come to Med School Insiders because they want help as a reapplicant. And they're usually confused. They're like, what happened? I had a 95% chance of getting in. No, you didn't. Students with your stats, on average, 95% of them get in. But you did not have a 95% chance of getting in. You were definitely part of the 5% that don't. And if I looked at your application a year ago, I could have saved you the time and effort because I could have pointed out, reasons A, B, C, and D why your application was weaker than what it should be. Now, similarly, we've helped students with 3.0 GPAs and 502s on the MCAT get into good MD schools. But Dr. Jabal, there's only a 5% chance of getting in with stats like those. No. 5% of students with stats like those get into USMD schools. But once we help you refine your essays, coach you on interview skills, do the whole process A to Z, your odds improve. It's not fixed based on your numbers. So what are your goals? What are your dreams? In my mind, at least in my professional life, there's financial freedom, but then there's also meaning. And usually people think you get one or the other. You either make a lot of money and then you don't like your line of work, or you love your job, but you're a starving artist. I want my work to impact others and make me feel like I'm doing my part and not just mooching off of the world, but contributing to it. I want to feel excited and invigorated by my work every day, but maybe I just want to take the day off every now and then and drive my Cayman GT4 on the racetrack. Or maybe take a couple weeks off and just travel the world with my future partner. I want a beautiful home that inspires me every day, and I want to provide for my family and give back to those that did so much to support me. Thank you, Mom. I want it all. And the crazy thing is, 10 or 12 years ago, all the signs would have pointed at this being impossible, and let's be real, I'm not there yet. But I do think that I'm on my way. Life's not fair, and I've had my fair share of cards. Trust me, you guys only know the surface level. But you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm the author of my own life, and I love the story that is being written.